had the opportunity to sit down with the CEO of Harnesslink, find out more about that. His name is Reid, and what he's been up to on a big trip he made alongside John Curtin to the States. Brad, want to find out a little bit more about Harnesslink and your role with them, so give us some background.
Cool, so as you probably know, I worked for Harness Racing New Zealand and formerly the New Zealand Standardbred Breeders, and I took a bit of a leap late last year and going to work for John and Harnesslink. It was a really exciting opportunity. Obviously they were celebrating their 20th anniversary, and John has really been looking to grow the website, which, you know, it started out pretty simple in its origins but has continued to flourish as the only global independent platform for harness racing. So yeah, it's something that I was really excited to come and be a part of.
Yeah, and that's what Harnesslink is. It's basically your one-stop shop for any fan that wants to know what's going on around the world, because like you guys, last week it was like 14 or 15 journalists across about 6 nations. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, so look, that's, I guess, the exciting thing with Harnesslink is it covers the global aspect of harness racing with North America, Europe and Australasia. We've got 15 staff globally and looking to expand that. And you know, in terms of the breadth of journalists, it's really incredible to learn about them having come on board. I mean, guys like Steve Wolf and John Berry, Hall of Fame journalists in North America. I mean, you go into the Hall of Fame in Goshen there in New Jersey, and these guys have their photos on the wall. So I mean, the calibre of the individuals that we've got on the writing staff is enormous, and I think that really shows in the content we're able to put forward.
Now, JC is not a big man for the camera, but his life in harness is quite extensive and you know, goes back 4 and 5 decades.
Look, and that's something, you know, like I grew up as a kid in the days of Auckland Reactor when I first really got excited about harness racing. That's when I can say that I started using Harnesslink as a platform, and I've learned, you know, I've worked closely in the breeding sector, so you get to know John pretty well with his involvement in the stallions, but it's pretty phenomenal, his career as a guy who'd been involved in harness racing at every level, dating right back to the 80s, I think. And you know, he's responsible for bringing shuttle stallions, the first lot of shuttle stallions from North America into New Zealand. He's been his involvement with yearling sales. I mean, we talk about big breeding drafts with the Breckons and selling drafts of 40 upwards. I mean, in the 80s, I think 87, John took a draft of yearlings himself of 150 to the Claudeland sales. So, I mean, as we know, he's facilitated deals like Lazarus and Auckland Reactor, and I think he sold something like $80 million worth of bloodstock over his career. So, I mean, it's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And you recently got that opportunity to head stateside with him. Gee, that would have been an education.
Yeah, look, when I first took the role, I mean, I was talking to a few people, like the Stuyvens, people I'm close to, about the opportunity. And I always remember John saying, you know, like, you'll never know where things will go with JC. And sure enough, within 6 months, we were off to America. And I guess, look, as personally, it was a really exciting opportunity, but also for the website because, you know, it's been 20 years since its infancy, and no one has really been on the ground in North America specifically targeting advertising. I mean, I think it's fair to say, JC would probably say this himself, that it's really survived over the 20 years off the back of his export business. And look, while we still do really well with advertising, 43% of our users globally come from North America. So for the opportunity to get up there and get in front of some of the studs and major players and sell the story, I mean, yeah, it was really cool.
Tell me about some of the farms you went to.
Yeah, so look, we were really lucky. We started in Ontario. It was the first time I'd seen snow in January, so in that sense it was quite striking. But we got to Sealster Farms first day and met the horse that's on everyone's lips at the moment, Bulldog Hanover, and Stratham and the family there at Sealster Farms. We were very lucky then. We went down to Tara Hills and met David Heffring, who is standing horses like Sports Rider and King of the North. Travelled down through to Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania. We went to Sugar Valley Farms, we went to Diamond Creek, Blue Chip Farms, Southwind Farms. Real highlight for me getting to meet a horse like Muscle Hill in the flesh, having bred Bolt for Brilliance. Incredible given the stallion roster when they bring out Muscle Hill and then Walner, Tactical Landing, even horses like a Kerry D. We're fortunate enough to get to a lot of the tracks. We went and spent time at the Meadowlands, see how they do things there. Scioto Downs, Hurrahs. Western Fair up in Ontario as well was another really unique track to get a visit at, and then also I guess the trainers and the horsemen.
And you caught up with some expat Kiwis, I understand.
Yeah, like Chris Ryder. It was really cool to see him meet his son and his wife and see how they do things there. Obviously Calvin Harrison, who John's really close with, and I mean he's had a pretty incredible career over there, went there 50 years ago and never come home, and he's trained some really top horses. And we're also really lucky at Yonkers to catch up with the likes of Lauren and Shane Curtin and find out how they're getting on over there, and just how different it is racing 6 days a week and having to pay staff, or like, you know, it's just a really interesting to hear about the exercise.
And having good success too.
Having great success. Like they've got an Irish trotter over there at the moment called Harry Nose that's going quite well, but obviously Locknova Art, and it's been quite incredible with the site, just seeing how people are just wrapped up in following that horse and seeing how he's going on, and I think we're going to see some really exciting things from him in the next 12 months.
All right, we know the name Joe Mascara so well, and the investment that he had in New Zealand harness and the number of horses he bought in the 80s and the 90s and beyond was enormous. So John's footprint would be all over North America.
Well, that's it. I mean, for a guy who spent 40 years selling bloodstock, I mean, for all intents and purposes, you don't intend to sell a slow horse, but as we know, things can go wrong. And that's one thing that stood out, was just the relationships that he's built over there. It'd be very hard to be in this industry for that long without burning the old bridge, but I think for John, like, that's a testament to him, is just how well respected he is up there. I mean, the New Zealand breed itself is now very well respected, but John himself, it was really striking how all of the major stud farm owners and trainers and people we went and saw, they went out of their way to come and see us. And you know, I think if I'd have gone up there on my own, I may have struggled. So it was really cool to get up there and do it with him.
All right, how's the industry up there?
Look, I think it has its challenges, just like our own industry, but I think they're doing really well in the sense, particularly Indiana and Ohio. I mean, one thing that's really noticeable is the influx, or I guess the investment now coming from the Amish community. I mean, people might take for granted here. I mean, you think the Amish just drive around in horse and carts and you know, live pretty frugally, but they're people that are very, very wise with their money and have a lot of it. And you know, with the horse being such a fundamental part of their culture, I think it was only natural in some ways that they did get involved in the standardbred industry, and you know, that's had a massive part in helping a place like Ohio and Indiana, who have grown from, I think they were breeding about 6,000 mares collectively over the last sort of decade. They're now breeding 7,500, 8,000 mares collectively, so they've been able to lift their broodmare band by around 2,000. You know, the tracks and stuff, it's hard with the feeling I get sports wagering's really had a big impact up there. So as we've sort of found here with fixed odds betting and stuff, it has been tough in terms of what it does for tracks and the likes, but they have there's just a lot of, obviously with 450 million people or however many there are in North America, they just do everything a bit bigger, don't they? So yeah.
Absolutely. Great learning curve for you. And of course, John's still heavily involved in the stallion ranks with the likes of Cap Midnight and Lazarus, who we're really getting excited about seeing his progeny on the track.
Yeah, look, I think Jack Trainer the other day had the first Lazarus Down Under winner, which was really exciting, and it'll be cool this week to see how his little filly goes. She's in the Gold Tiara series, so got her fingers and toes crossed. Don't think anyone's under any guys, he's got it all before him. I mean, it's really hard, especially up in North America with some of the stallions he's competing against, but I think a little bit like himself, we might see some of the best from his 3-year-olds up there this year with them coming through, and hopefully some of his 2-year-olds step out and do the job here. Obviously, Captain Midnight, John's always been a big fan of the Captain Treacherous line, so he was really excited to stand that stallion, and I think he had his best season down under here. He's also, I mean, he's got a foal coming by out of Chartin, the world champion, which is another horse John had a bit to do with. And another couple of the stallions, I guess, is the Warner line. John's been really forward-thinking and progressive there to sort of help secure and syndicate the first 2 sons of Warner to stand at stud, so hopefully they can come down under next year. King of the North and Temporal Hanover, so they're the two that I guess through John hadn't been able to get up to North America with COVID and the likes, but doing some diligence here, he could see the damage that Warner was doing as a first season sire, and had the foresight to go and secure a couple of top sons of him, so King of the North and Temporal Hanover. And the way they syndicated, I guess that's just a sign of the times with the trotting gate up there and how well that stallion's going.
All right, recently you wrote an article around the Yonkers International Trot, the $1 million race, and watching Muscle Mountain. And you know a little bit about the breed in this time of and trotting, because of course you breed Bolt for Brilliance, but you believe that this might be the time to strike with arguably our fastest and quickest trotter over the short course this decade anyway.
For sure. Look, yeah, like I was lucky enough to get up to Yonkers and learn a bit about the history there, and obviously they have $1 million international trot, and it coincided with the night that Muscle Mountain came out here and broke his own New Zealand record.
When he went 55.2.
Yeah, turned 221 for 1980, and it made me have a look at the times, and the international trot, million US, they're running over a very similar distance, albeit on a half-mile track. And when I compared the times, I mean, compared to last year's winner, he's actually gone a second and a half faster with only 20 metres less. So there's no doubt that he'd be competitive, particularly with his gate speed and the fact they only have one front line. I mean, he's in a position where he can just put himself in a race, and we know how quick he is. So, look, I had a quick chat to Ben and Greg about it, and look, it was really exciting to hear that while it would be heavily dependent on Dobby, and some things have changed since. Sunday Sun's retired, so whether that changes the barometer there is yet to be seen, but there's little doubt that he would be competitive.
Yeah, well, hopefully that might be able to unfold, although you're right, the Sunday Sun News may have put cold water on that somewhat. Everything seems to be at his feet at the moment, doesn't it? 750,000 people view Harnesslink. That was another milestone. So I guess what you're saying is, if you're a harness racing lover, you've just got to utilise the site.
Yeah, like what struck me when we got to look at the analytics is the average time spent on the website is 12 points.
That's per year, by the way.
Yeah, per year. So 12 minutes is the average time our users spend on the website, and the average page clicks is 9.7. So I mean, there's if you're a Kiwi that follows harness racing, it's a really good opportunity to really learn about North America. And I know our North American constituents, they do the same with Down Under, and it helps them keep following the sport. It's just a great platform in that respect, and as you said, 750 unique IP users per year. That's enormous. I think if you combine like probably 3 or 4 of the governing bodies, they'd be lucky to get close to that sort of web traffic. So as far as a platform, yeah, it's a really strong one, and one that people should be looking at using.
So Michael, really interesting to hear from Brad Reid. He's a smart guy. He loves his breeding, obviously, but that would have been a wonderful trip alongside, well, I suppose one of the icons in harness racing, particularly up there in the United States and Canada, and John Curtin. Geez, played a big part.
Massive part what John's done, and John's a person who, because he deals in horses, you get your critics, people who don't like you because you didn't buy their horse or you did buy that horse, and that's how it goes on. So is Harnesslink, because the media don't tend to like the other media. My stories go on Harnesslink for free via Harness Racing New Zealand, because the more people they go to, the better. And that's what they do. They've got a giant international portal, and it's really important. It's important for the buying and selling market. It's important for the stallion market. What Brad just did is something I would suggest, not everybody, because not everybody has the money to do it, I understand that. But if you get the chance to go to these places, go. It gives you such a global perspective on what harness racing is when you go to North America and you see where the stallions fit in and Dexter fits in and how it all works in together, and how the New Zealand horses sold up there fit into Yonkers on a race night. So, yeah, not everybody's, Greg's, going to have the opportunity to do that. I respect that, but it's great for you to talk to Brad so we can have a little insight into where our part of the ecosystem fits into the international scene. So yeah, Brad's a real asset for Harnesslink, and Harnesslink is doing a huge job for harness racing worldwide, because there isn't another worldwide site. There's not somewhere else, Greg, which is a one-stop shop. So I think it's something which is easy to take for granted. I don't think we should.